Hello, everybody, and good afternoon. My name's Don Arleth, and you're watching Midday Report. High-ranking Polish officials took part in a military parade held in Warsaw as the country marks its Armed Forces Day. The Polish president and defense minister delivered speeches at the event. Speaking at the parade, President Karol Nawrocki referred to the threat that Russia poses to Europe's security. He also called for the modernization of the Polish military and stressed the need to increase Warsaw's defense spending to 5% of the country's GDP. Polish Defense Minister Władysław Kosiniak-Kamysz emphasized the importance of unity as Poland and all of Europe face threats coming out of Russia. Events marking the holiday will continue across the country throughout the day. Russia is not undefeatable, said Polish President Karol Nawrocki on Friday at Polish Armed Forces Day parade. The holiday is celebrated on the 15th of August in commemoration of Poland's 1920 victory over Soviet Russia at the Battle of Warsaw.
Zwycięstwo nad bolszewikami.
The victory over the Bolsheviks in 1920 taught us an important lesson. It taught us that today's neo-imperial Russia, any Russia, because today's Russia isn't much different from its Soviet predecessor, is not undefeatable. That's what the heroes of 1920 tell us. And I want our officers and soldiers today to hear it. Russia is not undefeatable.
Drodzy Państwo, Rosja jest oczywiście zagrożeniem.
Of course, Russia is a constant threat, and that may not change. But I will continue to say that our history, our collective memory, and our modernization efforts have to make us believe that we are ready to build up our potential, that we can feel safe, and that our main enemy is not undefeatable.
The transformation of the Polish army is underway, said Poland's defense minister Władysław Kosiniak-Kamysz at the military parade in Warsaw. The minister praised the Polish army as the third largest army in the North Atlantic Alliance in terms of the total number of soldiers.
Stajemy dzisiaj tutaj, żeby też powiedzieć, w jakim miejscu jest polska armia.
We stand here today to recognize what the Polish army has achieved and how much it's developed. This parade is the largest in history, and our army is the largest it's been since 1989. It's the third largest army in the North Atlantic Alliance in terms of the number of soldiers, but our goal is even more ambitious. In the next 5 years, by the end of this decade, we won't just be in the top 3 in terms of numbers, we'll be among the leading NATO countries in terms of operational capabilities, which are no less important. The transformation of the Polish army is underway. In recent weeks, tank production returned to Poland after 20 years, and more contracts have been signed for an updated version of the F-16 aircraft. This transformation involves thousands of activities related to the construction of the East Shield, the fortification system, and the drone and counter-drone systems on Poland's eastern border, on NATO's eastern flank, combined with the activities of our allies on the Baltic defense line. We've incorporated this into the European strategy.
The celebration of today's military holiday also featured a marine parade by the Polish Navy, showcased the country's battleships and military equipment. Let's take a closer look at the Polish Navy show on the Baltic coast. Now we cross the Atlantic, where the U.S. President Donald Trump is expected to depart Washington shortly and head to Anchorage, Alaska, where he's to meet with Russian President Vladimir Putin. President Trump arrived just moments ago to board Air Force One to make his journey to Alaska. A high-profile meeting between the two presidents is scheduled to take place at the U.S. military joint base Elmendorf-Richardson in Anchorage, with discussions expected to begin around 11 a.m. local time. The talks will feature a working breakfast and expanded discussions with senior officials from both Russia and the U.S. And U.S. officials from Russia have already arrived in the city. Ahead of the Alaska summit, U.S. President Donald Trump has his sights already set on another meeting with Russia's Vladimir Putin. During a press conference, the American leader said he hopes to include his Ukrainian counterpart Volodymyr Zelenskyy in his second round of talks with Putin. When asked whether he would consider reducing military presence on NATO's eastern flank, specifically in Poland, to secure a ceasefire, he replied that a proposal, quote, hasn't been put forward to him.
I think it's going to be a good meeting, but the more important meeting will be the second meeting that we're having. We're going to have a meeting with President Putin, President Zelenskyy, myself, and maybe we'll bring some of the European leaders along, maybe not. I don't know that it's going to be very important. We're going to see what happens. And I think President Putin will make peace. I think President Zelenskyy will make peace. We'll see if they can get along.
And would you support or agree to reducing NATO troops in Europe, in countries like Poland, in order to get Russia to agree to a peace deal?
That hasn't been put before me, and I'll think about that for later, but it has not been put before me. All I want to do is set the table for the next meeting, which should happen shortly. I'd like to see it happen very quickly, very shortly after this meeting.
Top Russian officials have arrived in Anchorage, Alaska, ahead of President Vladimir Putin. Their arrival is in advance of the high-stakes summit with U.S. President Donald Trump. The meeting, primarily between Putin and Trump, aims to discuss a potential peace deal in Ukraine, even as Kyiv remains excluded from these talks. The delegation arriving in Alaska includes high-ranking officials such as Foreign Minister Sergei Lavrov and economic negotiator Kirill Dmitriev, alongside others. Lavrov, who had already arrived in the United States, was seen wearing a sweatshirt with the Russian acronym for the USSR, while Dmitriev shared aerial photos of the state, calling the scenery bright and picturesque. Vladimir Putin is expected later today, following a stop in Magadan, about 3,000 kilometers from Anchorage. Residents of Anchorage, Alaska, where the highly anticipated meeting between Presidents Trump and Putin will take place, are already out on the city streets protesting Putin's visit.
It feels like we're being used for a public distraction, and I really don't like that. I don't like that my governor is excited to invite an international war criminal into our state and to host him here.
You can't negotiate and not have all parties at the table. The fact that Zelensky's been cut out, it's his country. Let's not rewrite. Putin invaded Ukraine.
I question the efficacy of this meeting and whether what Donald Trump says will be accomplished will actually be accomplished. And I'm frankly scared of what this could mean to Ukraine in these escalating circumstances.
At least 6 civilians have been killed and 17 people, including a child, have been injured following the latest wave of Russian attacks in Ukraine. According to Ukraine's Air Force, Russia launched 97 Shahed-type drones and decoys against Ukraine overnight. Ukrainian air defenses intercepted over 60 drones, while more than 30 drones struck 13 locations, one of them being the Kherson Oblast, where Russian strikes killed 1 person and injured 5, including a child. In the Kharkiv region, Russian strikes killed 4 people and injured 2. Meanwhile, multiple locations across the country saw buildings, houses, schools, as well as industrial facilities destroyed by Russian attacks. Reports are coming in that Ukrainian forces launched a drone attack on a Russian oil refinery overnight. The targeted facility is believed to be located in Strizan in Russia's Samara region.
Eyewitness footage shows long clouds of black smoke billowing from the damaged facility. A fire can also be seen in the vicinity of one of the refinery's smokestacks. Russian authorities say the airspace over the area has been closed and temporary mobile internet restrictions introduced. Some of the Ukrainian drones were also reportedly shot down. This is the second similar attack in the region. At the beginning of the month, Ukrainian forces successfully attacked an oil refinery near Nowokuybyshev.
You are the reason that millions of Poles feel safe, said Polish Prime Minister Donald Tusk as he addressed one of the most elite units of the Polish Armed Forces in Warsaw. The Polish Elite Special Forces unit GROM celebrates its 35th year anniversary this year, of course. Polish GROM soldiers have participated in operations in the Balkans, Haiti, Iraq, Kuwait, and Afghanistan. The Prime Minister visited the unit as Poland celebrates Armed Forces Day. The annual holiday commemorates the anniversary of the 1920 victory over Soviet Russia at the Battle of Warsaw.
August 15th is your holiday, but you are not here to celebrate. All of us here in Poland love the military, we love this day, we love parades, but your daily service is not a celebration. You have earned, like few others in Poland, the recognition and trust of millions of Poles, and you, cultivating the traditions of the silent unseen, you, the best of the best, are the apple of the eye of the entire Polish nation. Poles know, even if they sometimes forget, that the GROM military unit has existed for all these years so that every Pole today knows that if they are threatened, if they are kidnapped, if they are attacked by terrorists, or if they are victims of sabotage, you are there to help them in every situation, to set them free. If necessary, you're there to eliminate any enemy who threatens the Polish state and our citizens. You are the reason millions of Poles feel safe, even if they're not interested in the military or war. It's thanks to you that they have this sense of trust and this growing self-confidence of Poland as a state, and that Poles as a nation are not only safe, but that we're also capable of winning.
Polish officials are taking to social media to express their deep disappointment with Israeli football fans following an incident at the football game between Israel's Maccabi Haifa and Poland's Raków Częstochowa. During the game, the Israeli fans displayed a banner reading "Murderers since 1939" that drew controversy. Polish President Karol Nawrocki and Defense Minister Władysław Kosiniak-Kamysz took to X to criticize the fans and call on UEFA to respond to the incident. The Israeli embassy in Poland also took to the same social media platform to condemn the fans' behavior. Polish Foreign Minister Radosław Sikorski responded, thanking the embassy, adding that he hopes Israeli youth are taught the truth about what happened in Poland during World War II. Anti-government protesters ransacked the offices of the ruling Serbian Progressive Party in the northern city of Novi Sad in Serbia on Thursday. Others clashed with police and party supporters in the capital, Belgrade.
In Novi Sad, Serbia's second largest city, dozens of anti-government protesters smashed the windows of the party's offices, threw out furniture and splashed paint across the entrance. "He's gone," protesters chanted in unison, referring to Alexander Vucic's 13-year-long rule. Police in full riot gear later cordoned off several blocks in Novi Sad's city center and used tear gas to disperse the crowd. In Belgrade, hundreds of protesters and Serbian Progressive Party supporters threw flares and firecrackers at each other on one of the city's main boulevards. Protesters have blamed corruption for last year's Novi Sad railway station disaster and are demanding early elections, in hopes of removing Vucic as well as his party, whom they accuse of corruption, using violence against political rivals, and suppressing media freedoms.
Today, Japan is commemorating the 80th anniversary of the end of World War II, an annual ceremony marking the country's surrender. Attendees observed a moment of silence to honor those who had lost their lives. At the national ceremony held in Tokyo, Emperor Naruhito and Empress Masako led prayers for the deceased and reflected on the hardships Japan faced during and after the conflict. The emperor expressed hope that the stories of those times will continue to be passed down to future generations. Following this, Prime Minister Shigeru Ishiba further highlighted the role of the younger generation, who lack first-hand experience of the war, in understanding its consequences and committing to lasting peace. And that concludes this edition of Midday Report. Thank you for watching, and stay with us for more here on TVP World.